Hi guys, this is Iceberg. 7Hz is delight us with their new product and released 2 IEMs with the PLANAR drivers in collaboration with the Crinacle. These are the 7Hz Divine, which are neutral with more modest bass, and Diablo with the bass where the plasters falls off the walls. When Linsel asked me which ones I would choose, I instantly picked the Diablo and wait for them like a little child. And now they're on my desk. So today I'm reviewing this truly devilish thing, and it's a PLANAR 7Hz Diablo. To be honest with you, I'm a big fan of PLANAR drivers and still enjoying the sound of the Kiwi's Aether with their endless Soundstage. And with Diablo, we get the same 3rd gen 14.5 PLANAR with magnets and a copper diaphragm in the compact shells, with a 12 dB bass boost for bassheads, which sound interesting. The price is like $150, which is a pretty good deal for the PLANAR driver, so let's check out their devilish sound. If you're new here, subscribe, like, and let's get started. And before we begin, I wanna thank Linsel for making my devilish wishes come true. These guys are always on point with their service and delivery speed, and now you can buy your favorite IEMs and a big discount. So if you haven't ordered from them yet, hurry up and check out their store. I've left the links in the description below the video. Okay, and now let's jump into the review. Well, Diablo comes in a typical 7Hz box, where we can see the model name and the shells on the front, and when turning it over, we can find the brief specifications and information about the manufacturer. Inside we find a big carrying case with a large 7 and the 7Hz logo, which is about the same size as the box. However, it's pretty comfy, but also big, so it might not always be convenient to put in your pocket or small bag. Inside the case we can see the IEMs themselves, a 2-pin cable with a 3.5mm jack, a few sets of colored ear tips, and a little manual. I just want you to note that the case has a velour cover inside, so it won't scratch even the most polished shells. The cable in Diablo is really decent and quality, which I wouldn't change. It's made of high purity OFC with 2-pin connectors at 3.5 plex and metal fittings. It looks shiny with thick wires and is tight and heavy, but it doesn't pull the IEMs down. To the touch it's not really flexible or playable, but reliable, so it will never bend or break. The only downside is that the cable is not modular, so you will have to use a 3.5mm connection. The included ear tips with Diablo are the same ones we have with the 7Hz Legato, but overall they suit this set just fine. So we have a few pairs of colored ear tips with wide and narrow bore for every preferences. They are made of soft silicone, hold their shape well, and do not create discomfort while using them. With the Diablo I mainly use narrow bore tips to emphasize the bass, but you guys should always try different tips for your IEMs, because they can either emphasize the sound stronger point or smooth out some of its flaws. Alright guys, let's get back to the Devils. The shells are made of CNC aluminum, look solid and monolithic, with a premium feel. The Devil's design is not flashy, but rather understated. On the faceplates we can see a grey matte insert with a 7Hz logo in the center. Inside we can find a metal nozzle which is quite short and 6.2mm wide, with edges to secure the ear tips. On the top we can see the model name and 3 vents, since PLANAR likes to throw air. And on the top there is a 2-pin connection that face upward for comfort. Despite the large planars installed inside, the Diablo shells are compact, slightly smaller than Aether and about the same size as a Legato. Spinning them around, I thought the fit would be weird due to the sharp nozzle angle, but actually it wasn't like that. In my small ears the fit is secure and deep, and the nozzle angle isn't noticeable at all. I didn't notice any discomfort or pressure during use, except for a slight protrusion from my small ears, but that's a normal, I guess. The sound isolation in Devils is simply good, but not like a vacuum. This is enough to use them at home or outside, but in transport or at loud events, the isolation may be not sufficient due to the vents. Well guys, I think I told you everything about the shells and the kit, so let's move on to the most important part, and it is sound of Diablo. And we will start by looking at the graph to understand their sound profile. Look, in the sub-bass region, we can see a solid curve with a peak of 70 decibels, which gives a noticeable, but knowing the planar, controlled sub-bass boost. Then the curve gradually goes down, but stays raised against the mids, which means a huge boost, about 12 decibels, as 7Hz tells us, but without too much aggression. In the mid-range, we can see a fairly emphasized and raised lower mids, a region where the vocals, low tones and instruments are located. And at 800 Hz, we can see a drop in the graph to 60 decibels, which indicates a typical planar mid-range rolls off. In the upper mid-range, we can see a natural rise with a peak at 3.2 kHz, which gives air and presence to the vocals and instruments, making them sparkle. The upper frequency region here in the Diablo is controversial. On the other hand, we can see a dip in the brilliance region, which can hide sibilance and make the treble less aggressive. But it can also affect the shine and sparkle we are looking for. On the other hand, we can see a rise in the treble in the 8K Hz, which brings back the air and resolution we expect from PLANAR. Overall, it's a typical V-shaped graph, where the emphasis is on powerful bass response, male vocals and instruments due to the boost in the lower mids, and presence, but without aggression, in the upper mids and treble. Keep in mind that this is planar driver that cannot be compared to the D and BAs and others, so you can expect a huge soundstage, fast dynamics and precise, tight transitions. And how the Diablos actually sounds, let's find out. The first thing that impressed me when I started listening to Diablo is the hellishly spacious soundstage and bass. It's not just here, it boosts forward, enveloping you with vibration, depth and texture. This is not the rumble from DD or BA, the planar driver's work is magic, with lightning fast response, but with planar coherence that doesn't hurt your ears. But wait, there is not just bass here, but also the soundstage. From the very first second, it spreads wide and high, the instruments don't crowd in your head, but breathe, soar in the space, with endless depth that makes the sound immersive, like a 3D movie without glasses. The planar nature of the Diablo gives it speed and resolution that make the sound alive and breathing, with sharp transients and controlled decay, but with a slight rumble for texture. The overall tone of the Diablo is warm and forgiving, with a slight lift in the mid-bass and smooth treble, so it doesn't fatigue even after hours of listening. There is no muddiness, no wailed mids, everything is clear but emotional, with a planar freshness that makes tracks shine with new colors. I have re-listened to my favorite tracks multiple times, trying to realize that Diablo is not too shy about being loud, being bassy, being just devilish. If you're a basshead like me, your first impression will be that love at first glance, or rather, at first listen. Alright, now, like in good review, let's take a closer look how the Diablo sounds. And let's start with the fundamentals, what makes Diablo the basshead king, which is of course, the bass. Listen guys, when I first put Diablo in my ears and played Banger and by Skrillex, I actually stopped for a second. The bass here is deep, physical, with such slam that the vibration goes through your whole body. This isn't the soft, fluffy ramble you can hear in cheap drivers. No, the planar drivers knows who is boss here. The sub-bass in Diablo is a truly epic rumble, a deep, extended hum like thunder that rolls in the waves and recessed, leaving an echo with a depth like diving into the hole, where the sub-bass extends so low that you can feel the pressure in your ears. Thanks to the 12 decibels boost, the planar design, the sub-bass here is not just present, it dominates, but naturally, where every pulse has authority without the muddy mess that you can get with cheap bass heads. Now mid-bass is the region where Diablo turns in the real hellish rebel. Here the bass doesn't just rumble, it's punchy and slamming, but fast and tight with that planar speed that makes every beat crisp and responsive. This is not a bloated boom, but sculpted, muscular bass, dense, flashy, with excellent note weight, where each bass guitar or drum feeling like a separate layer, wagey but agile. I was amazed by the attack speed and transitions, which are lightning fast, and the decays is natural and smooth, with a slight tail or sustain to add depth to the notes. For EDM, rock, or electronic, it's a pure joy, where Diablo adds body to the male vocals and guitars, making the sound dynamic and engaging. The only nuance is that in very bassy tracks, like some trap mixes, it can slightly color, adding warmth that purists will find too cozy. But for us, that should be a plus. The lower mids in Diablo are full and meaty, with moderate warmth, but not bloat, where everything is tight and controlled. The guitar is textured and rich, with a string vibration, and the lower mids give it weight, making the sound cohesive with the rhythm. Male vocals are dense and realistic, with vibration, where each note carries the weight without hollowness or muddiness from the bass, while female vocals are full and engaging, with such emotional presence, where the lower mids envelope, adding warmth and density, enhancing intimacy. If you listen to vocal-oriented or acoustic tracks, the lower mids are ideal here. The mid-range is neutral-leaning, with a warm tilt, full-bodied and textured. The timbre here is organic and realistic, with density and note weight, where male and female vocals aren't dry, but breathy and nuanced, and instruments are cohesive and information-rich. Piano is separated yet blended, guitars have body and flow, and strings have no off-timbre, but sounds perfectly correct and real, with air around them. Timbre is accurate for planars, organic and convincing. And in upper mids Diablo simply shines. They are energetic and bright, with timbre and separation, but without any shootiness or harshness, while the planar adds speed, making attacks crisp and transitions clear. It's a polished brilliance, where instruments and vocals come to the front in detail and emotion, with the planar speed that makes notes crisp and articulate. Male vocals sounds clear and distinct, with beauties like delays and reverbs, where the upper mids gives it airiness and precision, making the voice inviting and layered with no hiss, while female vocals are sensual and fragile, emphasizing high notes with silky smoothness. For vocal genres such as jazz, pop, or even rock, the Diablo is ideal, with clarity at the right level, but with a warm golden tint that doesn't hurt the ears. The Treble in Diablo embodies Crinacle's philosophy for bass heads who are tired of sharp planars, where the treble sometimes bites. Here everything is smooth as silk, relaxing, and without a hint of peaks or harshness. The treble here is clean and transparent, where every rustle and every ring is in its place, without grain or haze. There is no sibilance, thanks to the dip after 6 kHz, but instead an airy undertone, light as feather, which makes the sound immersive. The texture of the vocals and instruments is detailed, but not analytical, rather lively, organic, with a golden tint, that makes the treble inviting. The soundstage in Diablo really rocks, despite the bass bias. It's spacious and deep, with a width that extends beyond your head, a depth that stretches into infinity, and a height that adds a vertical lift. It's not an intimate bubble like in some DDs, but a grand hall where the stage is wide, distant in depth, with the feeling that you're in the center of attention and the sound surrounds you from all sides. The planar drivers works wonders here. The air seems to breathe, the layers of the music are layered but cohesive. There is no typical planar wall here, but a sense of openness, such the bass supports the foundation, the mids build walls, and the treble builds the ceiling. The separation here is precise, with layering that keeps the element in the air without merging into the mush. It's not a sharp isolation, but rather musical separation, where the instruments are separated but cohesive, with micro gaps that allows you to hear the interaction, like vocals and instruments details, but without analytical coldness. The only one I would compare the 7Hz Diablo to is the Kiwi's Aether, which has the same planar driver and is about the same price. In overall sound, the Diablo is a warm web beast with dominant bass that add weight to everything, making the sound thick, musical and forgiving, but slightly veiled, and especially in the mids, which is ideal for energetic genres like hip-hop, EDM and rock, with planar speed and slam. Aether on the other hand is refined and open, with a natural lean and emphasis on smoother balance. Bass is meaty for a planar, mids are melodic and refined, while treble is airy without harshness, but can be a bit analytical for casual listening. It's a versatile for lyrics, jazz and rock, where emotional depth is important rather than pure slam, but it's a more linear and forgiving with a slight warmth. In close tests, the Diablo seems more spacious and the vocals closer, while the Aether simply has a fuzzer stage but more neutral and detailed, versatile for any genres. Which I would choose, it depends on my mood. Diablo for bass and emotionals, and Aether for balance and precision. In conclusion, the 7Hz X Crinacle Diablo is a triumph for bassheads, where a 14.5mm planar driver and a 12 dB bass boost turn your ears into a tsunami, but without the fatigue that usually comes with such intensity. These are metallic devils made of CNC aluminum with a matte, understated design, but a comfortable fit that makes you forget they're inside. In terms of sound, they show off their bass-heavy character in all its glory. The bass dominates, but the technicality is on point, with a huge, spacious soundstage like a concert hall and separation with gaps where everything breathes. The vocals just right in your head and the instruments are arranged around them. The planar speed gives the detail and a text that gives you goosebumps. I always like 7Hz releases, and for $150 I would blind buy Diablo without any hesitation, as I am basshead who appreciate powerful bass, spaciousness and planar speed. And if you're also a basshead who loves metal, EDM, hip-hop or rock, then pick them up on Linsol, because it's investment in daily enjoyment that will turn your playlist upside down. And if you need a more neutral set, check out its brother, the 7Hz Divine, which offers the same vibe but with a more modest bass. Thank you guys for being with me on this trip to the hell with Diablo. Hit a like if you found the review helpful and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new reviews. I'll see you in the next video, take care, enjoy the music and bye bye.